Welcome back to the PMP training. Today we're talking about doing the work as you and the project management team, assessing and managing risks within the project team. Wow, this is a sensational chapter. A chapter which has defined my career since I have been working ever since within the project management space. It is a chapter which is going to leave you astounded, I promise you this. Risks are the most dangerous thing within a project. Your inability to solve those risks, to catch those risks with adequate timing, with a good response plan, is what keeps you and your project team failing. I believe about according to the PMI, 60 to 90% of projects worldwide fail simply because inadequate risk management. That is dangerous. That is extremely dangerous. Now, what is a risk? And it's an uncertain event or a condition that, if it occurs, could have a positive or a negative impact on the project baselines or objectives. So, if it's a positive risk, take advantage of it. If it's a negative, get rid of it, mitigate it. Do what you need to do to get it out the goddamn picture. Risks, we don't want it. We don't want it. Risks, if it's a positive risk, it's an opportunity, exploit it. If it's a negative risk, it's going to be, you got to mitigate it. It's a threat, get rid of it immediately, man. Don't let it linger around. It's going to cause you problems in the end. Trigger condition, this is the gun. This is the one when the guy pulls the trigger back and shoots at it. This is the thing that's going to trigger the risk. This is the risk is the bullet that's coming out the gun. You want to make sure you can control that trigger condition. You got to make sure that if you can spot what the trigger could be, you can eliminate that trigger and, control it. You need to be able to control this. This is all the criticality of the project manager, able to spot if this trigger happens, X, Y, and Z is going to end up happening. So trigger conditions lead to many risks, so you need to make sure you keep a track on it. But having said all that, you must have a risk management plan in place. I know you're probably saying, another management plan. That's all you keep saying to us all the time. I know, but you need to actually do it. You have to do it. These plans help you lay out a blueprint, a pattern for success, something that you can use in the future to guide you and your team to a nice conclusion to the project. Isn't that what you want at the end of the day? So the impact, the probability, the stakeholders, the appetite, get that all nicely mapped out so you can be in control. A risk management plan, you have a strategy in there, you have some methodologies. If you want to apply any methodology, timing, the funding, tracking documents, how you want to do it. So it's the A to Z, the whole 9 yards of risk management. Obviously these are some suggestions here, but you can think about how you want to take this in your own way going forward. I would recommend just ensuring you are, you have the basics down, and then as your project gets more and more complicated and more complex, then you might want to think of other ways, on other techniques on expanding the scope of these documents. So take it easy in the short term and then expand as you need to expand. Now, when it comes to identification, there are many, many different ways that you can identify. You can look at data, you can look at the analysis of that data, talk to the people, get people to actually voice what those actual risks are. Meetings, every meeting that you attend, guys, spend about 1 minute voicing out the risks. At the beginning of the meeting, team, any risks, get it written down so you and your team know what you need to target going forward. Classification. So, some risks will come from the inadequacies of you as a project manager. You're not dealing with the project, you could say following the process. By you inadequately following the process, you might create these risks that could impact your team and your project going forward. So it can come from any of the key project management areas, but also it can be internal and external as well. So something that you need to keep in mind. And as I just said there, it could be internal, it could be external, it could be technically based, it could be non-technical, generic, you must have some sort of mapping in place so you know where it's coming from and how you're going to deal with it going forward. Classifications: known, known, unknown, 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 known, unknown, unknown. Guys, this is lovely to really twist your minds on. You can read it up on the screen what's going on here. For me, it's just the case of if you know about it and it's in your head and you're aware of it, it's a known, and you can kind of just kind of drop it from there. You see from how it just kind of spreads out from there. Sometimes you know about the information and you don't have access to it, so you can see how it kind of just splices out from these angles here. So that's the different classifications. For me, the most important thing is I know where the source is, if it's internal or external, and how I'm going to deal with it going forward. Qualitative risk analysis. This is when you need to prioritize them. So obviously if you've got 1,000 risks on your team, it's going to be quite impossible to actually deal with them all. So you might need to say high, medium, low. You might also have to say these are very important, these are non-important. Get a separation, get a differentiation, which ones you need to focus on and which ones you need to get rid of. Very, very important going forward. Probability and impact matrix. I believe there's a picture coming up here, and you can see here's a picture here. So it shows you the risks and the kind of like a mapping of terms of the ratio of threat, the impact of that threat, and how it could affect there. So threats, opportunities, positive and negative. It's something that you can do. You don't have to do it. You can take it much more simpler. You can just map them down and categorize them high, medium, low. But if you want to take it one step further, feel free to try this out. Quantitative. So once when you've discovered which ones are the top 10 or the top 20 in the high risk area, you need to do some quantitative analysis, some sort of financial modeling, some sort of a complicated structural analysis in terms of where, how much money do we need, what's the impact of the project. This is where the real nitty gritty of the analysis happens for the risks. And you want to do it only for those, I would say the high ones. And then if you have time, obviously think about doing some of the medium as well. Risk response. This is the plan that you and your team put in place to actually deal with the risk. So obviously if it's a positive risk, you want to take advantage of it, right? And if it's a negative risk, you want to mitigate it. You want to get rid of it as much as possible. So it's an action plan to address the risk and get your team back on track. Question time, but you'll do that in my classes. Risk response, as we were saying there, assign a person to implement that action, develop options, add resources, funding, you might need to do some funding in there as well, review secondary risks, anything you guys need to put in there. There's no real right or wrong answer here, but the major thing is that you are aware that there's different options that you can, different categories, different aspects that you can cover here, but you're covering it to the best of your abilities as possible. Just be aware and mindful of all the different things that you can put in a risk response plan. Risk response strategies. Obviously, guys, if it's a negative, you might need to escalate it to someone. You might need to completely avoid it, transfer it by doing some sort of procurement, getting some insurance, mitigating it by putting a plan in place and accepting that, hey, if it happens, tough, there's nothing we can do about it. Positive, you might want to escalate it as well, take advantage of it, exploit it to your advantage, share it, enhance, accept, similar sort of style. Basically, the message here is, if it's a good risk, take advantage of it. If it's a negative risk, get rid of it, because we don't want it. Contingency. There is situations where plan A fails. What do? We got to shift to plan B. Because plan B is going to ensure that our failure in plan A doesn't happen again. So it's a response which might be used in an event, a specific trigger, also known as a contingency plan or a fallback plan. For me, it's plan B. So always have a plan B ready, just in case. And obviously the contingency response strategies, you develop them in advance. It is only used when plan A has failed, and it allows you to react very quickly to situations that you're unable to really control. And it should be holistic in thinking. The entire PMP has this kind of mindset of applying things in the fullest view possible. that also applies to your contingency response planning as well. That's it for now. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Leave me a comment down below, and until next time, guys, thanks for watching.